4 of our lymphatic series. We will, of course, continue to work with that same process of clearing lymph from the center to the periphery that we've been going through for the past 3 weeks. And of course, on top of each sort of lymphatic practice, we've had a theme. So in the first week, it was connection, where we really sort of pondered how lymphatic fluid connects all of our tissues together. It collects waste from all over the body, literally from every cell of your body, and moves it from one place to another. It connects the whole body in the sense that it surveils that fluid that it picks up for invaders. So any kind of substance that needs to be dealt with, and it can literally launch an immune response in your entire body. So another way in which it connects sort of to the entire body. In the second week, we emphasized the fluidity of lymph, that sort of capacity it has to support flow within the body, to support an unfolding, a moving, and not just in the body. We took that theme kind of into our breath and into our mind. And then last week, we talked about the nourishing functions of lymph, in that it also picks up fatty acids from your food that are too big to go right into the bloodstream. It picks up fat-soluble vitamins, and once again distributes those throughout the body. So today we will bring all of that together and sort of look at the fact that lymphatic fluid supports our flourishing, because it invites us that we are always connected to everything within ourselves and outside of ourselves. It reminds us to go with the flow, right? To unfold and to move very freely. It invites us to think about how we nourish ourselves, how we support ourselves. And ultimately, when all of these things come together, lymphatic fluid and of course everything else we do in yoga and in other ways in our life helps us flourish. It helps us thrive. It helps us really feed the seeds of joy, find balance, find harmony in our body. Any fluid in your body, if it's in the right balance, if it's harmonized with everything else through connection, it supports our flourishing. And the amazing thing about flourishing is that it doesn't rely on any particular state of health in the body. They're not the same thing. You can be in the midst of a health challenge, and we know on this screen we have all been in the midst of significant health challenges, and you can still thrive, you can still flourish. That may not always seem accessible, but probably most of you have had that experience where in the midst of your deepest despair, something happened, somebody reached out, somebody brought a lasagna to your door or sent you a really sweet note, and all of a sudden your heart opened up. That's flourishing. So this is part of the practice, right? Is to be open to recognizing that flourishing and thriving is not dependent on any particular state of health. It can happen anytime, anywhere. And our lymphatic fluid is a beautiful symbol of that. It carries both bacteria and viruses and cancer cells and any other invader, and it carries nutrients. It nourishes you, it cleanses you, it supports you in your immunity. I think it's a beautiful symbol of this capacity that we have to be resilient in the light of challenge and to find flourishing no matter what. Well, but enough said about our theme for today and this month. From this point, I really invite you to find your usual spot. Most of you have been here many times, so you know by now you have the choice of either sitting in a chair or sitting on the floor, or you could lie down. And wherever you choose to be, whether it's on the floor, on a chair, seated or lying down, the main thing is to support yourself. Right? Thriving can emerge most predictably if you support yourself. And so if you're seated on a chair, that means even in the chair, sit upright. Don't slouch into the back of the chair for the opening centering. Sit upright, let your spine be in its natural curves. Let the crown of the head move toward the sky. Find a comfortable placement for your hands, maybe resting on the legs or stacked on each other. And finding a support for the feet. If you have kind of short legs and you kind of have to strain to get your feet to the ground on a chair, that happens to more people than you would think. It's actually nice to just take a block and put it under your feet, or a fat book that you have, like an atlas or something, and support yourself that way. And I've talked plenty before about how to find comfort as you're lying down, or how to find comfort when you're seated on the floor. So let yourself settle in and find your own path into the shape you've chosen, always remembering that if you pick something that feels good in the moment and it turns out not to have been the right thing to support your flourishing or your thriving, you can make a change. Simply do so with mindfulness and then come back to the opening centering. And so take a moment then also to decide how you would like to place your eyes, whether open or closed. Maybe at half-mast with a gentle gaze somewhere ahead of you. Perhaps make a conscious decision about the placement of your hands if you didn't already. Knowing that the hand placement may speak with your nervous system, so that palms down may invite a settledness, a groundedness. Palms at the heart might suggest introspection, drawing inward. Palms up may suggest an openness to being inspired to learning, unlearning, and relearning. And allow yourself to arrive in this moment, in this space, in this beautiful Thursday morning community that has committed to this practice together in community, connected to one another. And then gently find your body from the inside out, meeting sensation, meeting experiences that you are bringing with you this morning physically. By now you know that this doesn't mean that you are creating anything in the body. You are simply opening your heart and your mind to noticing what's there. Paying attention to physical sensation doesn't create that sensation. It allows you to know that that sensation is present. And it then invites you to be kind and compassionate, even with difficult sensation, with difficult experience. It invites you to find a harmonious and balanced way of being with whatever arises from your body, deeply appreciating that your body is carrying a lifetime of physical experience. A lifetime of being nourished, cared for, supported in a variety of ways. But also a lifetime of perhaps having been a bit ignored or not always treated with the compassion that it deserves. We've all been there. Also a lifetime perhaps of having gone through various illnesses, accidents, the regular experience of what it means to be human, to have a human life. And so as you tune into your body this morning, you are meeting all of that. The sensations of this moment contain within them the sensations of your lifetime. Can you meet them with compassion, with loving kindness? With the deep caring that supports you in moving and situating your body in such a way that you optimize the opportunity for the body to find flourishing, to thrive, even in the midst of difficulty. And holding your body in this kind and loving awareness, gently begin to notice the pulsation of life, the pulsation of breath, the pulsation of vitality that pulses through your body. We may speak about body and breath separately, but they are, of course, deeply connected. They nourish one another. They flow together. They thrive together. And so meet your breath in this moment, your vitality, just as it is, recognizing it too is in this moment the expression of every breath you've ever taken in your life so far. And as you observe your breathing in this way, the flow of the inhalations and the exhalations, perhaps there is a sense of awe. That vitality is pulsing through you in this way, connecting you to yourself and connecting you to the outside world. Your breath is nourished and can thrive because of how the plants around you breathe. We are in a beautiful reciprocal relationship with the entire web of life, with every breath we take in and breathe out. We contribute to the nourishing and thriving, and we are the recipients of nourishing and thriving. Can you meet your breath just as it is in this moment, an expression of a lifetime of breathing, a lifetime of vitality, with kindness, with compassion, with a deep love that allows the breath to thrive to the best of its ability in this moment, even if there is some challenge embedded within it. And holding your breath and your body in this loving awareness, gently begin to recognize how they are connected to your mind and how your mind is connected to them. Perhaps noticing the sensations and the experiences in your mind, the thoughts, the stories, the feelings that you are bringing with you this morning. Can you meet the experiences in your mind with that same awe, that same open-heartedness, that same open-mindedness that you brought to body and breath? Meeting each thought, however difficult or strange or beautiful, with that understanding that it reflects every other thought, every other story you've had before. Can you meet your feelings, even if some of them are challenging this morning, as a reflection of this moment, knowing that this moment holds everything that has come before it and will infuse everything that comes after it. And holding your body, your breath, your mind in compassionate awareness, tune in to the true miracle of what it means to be human, your deeper inner intelligence, your deeper wisdom that can engage in this observation, that is by its nature wise, compassionate, loving, and joyful. Joyful because it always has the larger perspective. It always understands the greater context. It supports discerning decision-making that can invite us to become responsive and kind rather than reactive. This deep wisdom that connects us to our past, to our future, to our community, our family, the greater web of life, is deeply, deeply tied to the seed of joy that lies within all of us. And our yoga practice is part of what we do to water that seed of joy, that seed of thriving, of flourishing. Can you allow yourself to be with that reality, that complexity of what it means to be human? Can you be here perhaps with compassion, with love, and a sense of gratitude as you might choose to bring your hands to your heart, as you bow your head to your heart center, to see if there is an intention that arises for you for your time on the mat today. And by now you know that with an intention, I don't mean a goal or an outcome or a product from the practice, but a quality that you would like to bring to the practice this morning. Perhaps a quality today that supports thriving, flourishing, feeding the seed of joy. If an intention arose for you, however subtle, maybe just as a felt sense, not as a phrase or a word, or maybe just as a space where an intention might take hold later, whatever it was for you, you might choose to breathe it into your own heart with your next breath in. And then perhaps you choose to send it silently outward into the greater web of life with your next breath out. And then whenever you feel ready to do so, you can release your hands if they were lifted. You can open your eyes if they were closed. You can rise to a seat if you were lying down, and you can lift your gaze if it was lowered. And welcome everyone. Lovely to see all of you for another beautiful class dedicated to our lymphatic system. And so as people are getting settled, as they're rising from their seat, or as you're sort of wiggling from having already been sitting, if you were on the floor like me with legs crossed, you might change the cross of the legs. If you are on a chair, just maybe wiggle for a moment. Or maybe if you're seated on the floor, you change position altogether. Maybe you choose to go to a chair now, or just take a moment to tune in. How would you like to start? A little bit of movement, and then gently begin to shrug your shoulders straight up and down. So no circles yet, just a straight shrugging up and down. And ask yourself, do I know why Chris is asking me to do this? And then if you've been here for the last 3 weeks, you're like, oh yeah, we're already moving our lymph in this region of the collarbones. And you could even, if you wanted to, bring your fingers very gently above the collarbones, just letting them rest there to feel how these very simple shoulder shrugs are stimulating muscular action in this region of the shoulders, the collarbones. And by now you know that when we bring muscular action into a region, that movement compresses those beautiful little lymphatic capillaries and the lymphatic vessels and gently brings lymphatic fluid toward the nodes that, in this instance, we're focused on the nodes that are in the region of the collarbones. You could even start to tap a little bit here, or you could take your right hand and stroke from the outer shoulder toward the center, and on the left, and the left hand to do the same on the right. You could take turns. If you're like good with taking both hands and doing this at the same time on both sides, you could do that. For me, that's a little too much. I like to do it one side at a time, but we're all different, right? And by now you know that if you bring hands to skin, you might actually encourage a little bit more lymphatic fluid than if you bring the hands above your clothing, but that of course you have the choice. Maybe you're still shrugging shoulders, maybe you're not, it's not important right now. Right now you're also just giving kind, loving attention to this region of the collarbones, gently beginning to encourage lymphatic fluid to move to this region, because this is sort of your central spot. Because lymphatic fluid is a fluid, and so it responds to hydrodynamics, which means that if we clear the lymphatic fluid here through the subclavian veins toward the heart, we create negative pressure, and then the fluid from the periphery naturally starts draining inward to this spot. And then perhaps you would like to bring your fingertips onto the collarbones themselves and just let them rest there very gently, sort of on the upper edge of the collarbones. And draw your head back the way we always do it, right? So 2 fingers to the chin, or 1 finger, whatever, slight tuck of the chin down, and then draw the head. You could think of the ears sort of moving toward the back body so that the head is beautifully aligned on top of the spine as you gently then move the head up and back. You could bring your eyes toward the ceiling. By now you know the body loves to follow our gaze. So by bringing the eyes toward the ceiling, your head will move in a very natural arc. And just feel what is happening under your fingers here at the collarbones. You might notice the tissue has to become a little bit more resilient as you open the neck. Don't overdo this. It doesn't have to be a huge range of motion. You really want to keep the back of the neck safe. And then the movement that we will add is kind of odd, but you'll keep your mouth closed, but you'll move your jaw forward and back, because it's kind of hard to show. I'll show it a bit from the side. Barely visible, but you will feel as you draw your jaw forward and back, you're beginning to really engage the musculature in the forward part of the neck. You might also feel muscles moving in the back of the neck. So just tune into this region and gently begin to tug downward just on the skin with your fingers to create even more action here. Do it a couple more times. And then with an inhalation, and very slowly and patiently, bring your head back to center and take a couple more rounds of shoulder shrugs. Or maybe more than a couple, just a few rounds of shoulder shrugs. And then come into your Spock fingers, if you can, and just very gently stroke across yet again. Couple fingers above the collarbone, a couple fingers below. You could even close your eyes, and from the inside, imagine supporting the flow of lymphatic fluid through the tissues here into the veins that will carry that fluid to the heart, into the bloodstream. Having recycled the waste that the fluid picked up, and releasing the nutrients that it collected, the fat-soluble vitamins, the fatty acids that can now be distributed by the flow of blood to the cells in your body. Then you can keep those Spock fingers and gently bring them now higher on your body, 2 fingers ahead of the ears, 2 fingers behind. Excuse me, folks. And very gently begin to stroke downward on the neck. So now, those of you who have been here all 3 weeks, you realize, we're moving to the second region. We're clearing now, or supporting the clearing now of lymphatic fluid through the neck. You could even bring the hands behind the face to the back of the neck, maybe the base of the skull, Gently drawing downward and forward. And remember, this is a very light stroke and you are not digging in. You're very gently stroking and encouraging, especially the little tiny lymphatic capillaries, to pick up waste, and then the vessels, the lymphatic vessels, to move that lymphatic fluid, and not just the waste, but also the nutrients, toward the heart. From here, I invite you to yet again do your little tuck and draw back. And then wait for an exhalation. You could continue to stroke here. Turn your head to the right. Now it might feel really nice to take the right hand to the left side of the neck and to very gently support the movement of lymph here. You're compressing on the right, so the muscles there are very much doing the work of supporting the flow of lymph. If you feel okay with touching your face, you could even take a hand and stroke gently across the face and down the neck. With your next inhalation, bring your head forward, reset, maybe take a round of breath, and when you feel ready, with an exhalation from your healthy alignment of the head on top of the spine, turn the head to the left, maybe now exploring some movements on this side of the neck. Maybe even this side of the face. Very gentle, loving, compassionate strokes, not aggressive, angry strokes, but really, really feeling gratitude for this beautiful lymphatic fluid that connects everything, that flows through you, cleansing, removing waste, maintaining healthy fluid levels in your body, nourishing. And then with an inhalation, bring your head back to the front. And let the chin tuck gently and drop the head forward this time rather than back, and draw little necklaces on your chest with your chin. Just a very gentle movement, maybe with an exhalation to one side, with the inhalation forward, exhalation to the other side. And you might notice how now you're creating a lot of muscular engagement in the back and some compression in the front of the neck. And you know, I love the fact that we can imagine things in our body with great power of influence. And so as you go through this movement here, you don't have to be aggressive in your range of motion. You just go as far as you can, and then you let your mind imagine all the fluid in this region doing its thing, draining toward the heart. You've cleared that space, you created the negative pressure in your little hydrodynamic system. And so all you have left to do is to move with compassion, with patience, with an open heart, to support the flourishing here. If you started like me, rolling the head to the right, then the next time you have rolled the head to the left, if you haven't ended already, then when you come back from there, gently lift it back in line with the spine and begin to take a few shoulder circles. This might actually feel like a nice relief for that prior movement. That's the beauty of yoga. We can do one thing that maybe is a little challenging for one region of the body but supports another, and then we can relieve that more challenged region with the next movement. And so just let yourself maybe enjoy these very gentle shoulder circles, feeling the freedom perhaps that you have in your range of motion, knowing that there's never an outer ideal, but always an inner experience, an inner way of embracing whatever movement is possible for you within your body and all its experiences up until this moment. The next time your shoulders have traveled back, down, and forward, let the arms rise and bring them out in front of you. And then draw the fingertips away, letting the arm bones kind of come away from the shoulder socket. This is a very subtle movement. And then as you exhale, draw the arm bones into the shoulder socket. Inhaling, stretching the arms forward. Exhaling, drawing the arm bones in. We're going to do that a few times. Again, you have your own range of motion here because your body is different from every other body on the screen. You could even close your eyes so that you're not tempted to compare yourself. You're really tuned in to what's happening. And through that tuning in, you begin to realize that, now we're beginning to move into the shoulder region in all earnestness, really moving the region of the armpits. And maybe this movement, which looks so subtle and easy, is surprising you by now, because it can be quite difficult. So if you're feeling yourself tighten up, let the arms come down, take a few shoulder circles, bring some ease back into the area, and then go for one more much shorter round. Maybe 3 or 4 times with a deep appreciation for your own body, moving in a way that is nourishing and flourishing for you. And then let the arms come down by your side and make a few large shoulder circles. You can move with whatever speed you would like to move here. You checked into your vitality earlier. What is nourishing and supporting your flourishing here? Big, fast circles, or not so big, slow circles, or slow, big circles. Endless variations, right? So just tune in and see what you would like. And if you would like to get a little bit creative, you could let those circles come in alternating swings that maybe cross the body in front. Maybe you just really lean into a moment of watering the seeds of joy in your own body by becoming very creative in how this unfolds for you. If you are seated on a chair or on the ground and you'd like to be up on your feet now, standing up, you are absolutely welcome to do that. It invites a freer flow, but you also don't have to. I'm showing it on my knees so that you can see my head and my arms. Otherwise, I would be up on my feet or seated on a chair. Probably is better than being seated on the floor. You know, there's always yogi's choice. It's never about what I ask you to do. It's always about me making suggestions and offerings and you being the person who takes agency and takes the power to decide what works for you. The next couple of swings, let those be your last ones. And either end with your arms by your side for a moment to tune in, or in any other way that feels good for you in this moment. Maybe your eyes even want to close so that you can begin to feel the fluidity of your body from the inside out. You just nourish your body very deeply with movement. Let yourself sense into it if you would like. If there's something else you would like to do, feel very welcome to do that. And whenever you feel ready to move on, bring your arms into cactus. And with your inhalation, let the arms kind of move behind you a little bit, opening the heart in a way, And then as you exhale, let the forearms travel toward each other. Maybe they touch, maybe they don't. Maybe you even bend a little bit in forward. Maybe you bend back a little bit on the inhale, but that's not necessary. Just the arm movement is helpful, and your arm movement can be wherever it is for you. Maybe your arms are down here, right? Maybe your arms aren't happy here. So you get to decide how to flow. You get to decide what your cactus looks like, your little saguaro. The limbs are so different if you've ever seen those cacti. They come in all shapes and sizes and positions. So embrace your own inner saguaro. And perhaps imagine all the lymphatic flow now that is being stimulated. You've cleared the region of the collarbones. You've cleared a pathway through the neck, from the head through the neck. You've begun to clear the axillary nodes, the axillary pathways, and you've now begun to flex your elbows. So you realize you're now also moving regions, muscle and tissue around the elbows, starting to bring fluid toward those nodes as well. The next time you open your heart, then come to neutral, so not the big exaggerated, but just your regular little saguaro. And then take the elbows to straight and then bring them in. Maybe touch the shoulders with your fingertips. That'll bring a little bit of a flexion into the wrist. And then fold out and fold in and fold out. If you'd like to add a little bit of circling to that, you could again make that kind of creative, kind of our little chicken wing rotation with a little bit of flexion and extension in the elbow. So yogi's choice, whatever feels right for you. This might have something to do also with what your mind can handle right now, maybe the complexity of combining rotation and flexion and extension is more than your head wants this morning. My brain just said, no, just one thing at a time, Chris, so just see what's happening for you. Yoga is also great brain food. And if you've just been flexing and extending like me, maybe then do come into your chicken wings and just take a moment to make some deliberate circles in your chicken wings. And from there, open the arms up, make a nice big circles, bring the arms up, perhaps grab your wrist, your left wrist with your right hand, and very gently bend to the right. With the exhale, if that serves you, rise with the inhale, change the grip at the top, wait for an exhale, and come to the other side. We haven't done a whole lot for wrists and hands today, but you know this would be a great spot if you wanted to clear a little bit of edema in the hand region. This is the time point when you would do that. You don't start clearing edema from the fingers. At the fingers, you start at the collarbones so that you're clearing a hydrodynamically auspicious pathway for that lymphatic fluid to drain. But we right now are beginning to already move into the waist region. And so you might be remembering at this point, oh yeah, there's a big set of lymph nodes in the abdomen. There's also that beautiful cisterna chyli that collects all of the lymphatic fluid that comes from the lower body. Just rehashing last week's ponderings a little bit here. But it also collects all the fluid that comes from the lacteals in your intestinal region that carry those fatty acids and those fat-soluble vitamins. It's, by the way, that fluid, that lymphatic fluid from the lacteals that makes your lymphatic fluid look a little bit white, a little bit less clear, because of the fatty acids that are dissolved in it, right? Not that you needed to know that tidbit, but it just popped into my head. So take it or leave it. It's not important. Yeah, so we've moved side to side. Now you can add a little bit of creative movement, because you might recall that in this region, rotation supports lymphatic flow. And so your yogi's choice, last week we did the knocking on the doors of life movement. Maybe that's too much for you this week. Maybe you're very gently seated in your chair and you're flowing side to side, or you could do this seated on the ground. You can do this standing too. So I'm more and more encouraging you this week to find your own way of working with each of these regions that have a lot of lymph nodes. And it's not the lymph nodes that you're agitating or pressing on, it's the tissue around them. It's the vessels and the capillaries that are embedded in the tissue that get beautiful compression from the muscular action, but also from the fascia. You're not touching the lymph nodes directly. That's a misconception. You are stimulating the musculature around them so that the fluid can drain to the lymph nodes. So there's no need to work on your lymph nodes. In fact, have you ever had like a swollen lymph node in your neck when you had a cold or something, and you felt sort of compelled to palpate that poor little lymph node? That's really not the greatest idea. You're much better off working with the tissue around it and leaving the lymph node itself alone. Same with any region, and we've talked about this before, with any region that you have of edema, you want to work extra carefully there. You don't want to work aggressively or forcefully with any of your tissue, but especially not tissue that has edema at the moment. When you've had enough fun with your own choice of rotations, our Sufi circles, or our hula hoops, if you remember the hula hoops, all of those are great things to do. Again, just a bit of a recap of the whole month today. But when you've enjoyed enough of the very deliberate rotational movements of your mid-region to bring some muscular contraction here, you can place your hands on your belly. Maybe your middle fingers are kind of right on the belly button, and the little fingers are kind of toward the hip bones, but not on the hip bones. The thumbs might be on your low ribs. All depends on our own anatomy, how long your waist is, so these are just approximations. The idea is to let your hands rest there and take a moment to simply feel your breath again. To notice how your body is moving, especially if you've wrapped your arms around your side waist, in this region here, feeling yourself from the inside out in 360 degrees, the whole circumference of your waist region moves when you inhale and exhale. You don't have to exaggerate this. But as you're here, feeling your breath and feeling that gentle outward and upward movement of the low ribs as you inhale, maybe the rising of the belly, maybe the expansion through the waist as breath travels in. And then as you feel the drawing inward of that region, the drawing downward and inward of the low ribs on the exhalation, you remind yourself that, my diaphragm, this big breathing muscle that contracts downward with the inhalation and relaxes upward with the exhalation, that's your primary mover and shaker that brings lymphatic fluid to the abdominal lymph nodes. Every breath you take, quite often people breathe more than 20,000 breaths a day, beautifully moves lymphatic fluid through this very important region of the abdomen. We are designed this way. You might recall that the lymphatic system doesn't have a pump like our cardiovascular system, where the heart pumps the blood. The only thing that moves lymph is movement, including the movement of each breath. If you would like to intensify the movement in the mid-region with your breath, I invite you to join me in a few rounds of bumblebee breathing, where on the exhalation you make the sound of You could even exaggerate that a little bit today and really draw in the deep abdominal muscles, kind of drawing your low ribs inward on the exhale, but not overdoing. You don't want to dysregulate yourself, but you do play a little bit. Using your breath rhythm to do this, not trying to mimic mine. I'm simply demonstrating what this might sound like. Do this a couple more rounds, noticing the beautiful action of the muscles in the midriff region, supporting the flow of lymphatic fluid to the nodes here and to that little storage called the cisterna chyli, the cistern for that lymphatic fluid that's traveling from the low body toward the heart. And as you continue with your bumblebee breath, you might also feel the beautiful vibration in your throat. This lovely vibration not only comes from some muscular work that supports lymphatic flow through the neck, but it also stimulates your vagus nerve. And so it signals to your nervous system a sense of safety, a sense of calm. Finish the bumblebee that you're on. And then you can either take a few calming rounds of breath, if that feels like the right thing for you, or you can join me in a couple of rounds, so let's say 3 rounds, no more, of lion's breath. You might recall lion's breath is a very strong exhalation, and at the moment that you exhale, you stick out your tongue and you kind of contract yourself inward a little bit. So you can try that. If that doesn't suit you, don't do it. But if you like it, then do. And after 3 rounds, stop and let yourself settle. If you feel a little bit dizzy, that's absolutely normal. You're breathing out very big breaths, so you're releasing a lot of carbon dioxide, and that can be a tiny bit of a challenge for your body because it needs a certain amount of carbon dioxide for the tissues to reabsorb oxygen from the blood. So let yourself settle here for a moment. You don't have to be afraid of that dizziness. It's a great way of building resilience, of building thriving and flourishing to do some difficult things. We call this stress inoculation, where we do something that's challenging and it results in thriving. And then from here, if you're not already standing, I invite you to come to standing. Have your chair ahead of you though. And most of you know where we're headed. We're adding a little bit of very deliberate movement now to the hip regions, the knee regions, and the ankle regions, just to clear the lymphatic fluid from the lower part of the body. We didn't do as much of that today as we did, say, last week, but enough. So we'll come to a forward fold if you would like, or if you would prefer to continue to work on the floor, you could be kneeling right now rather than standing. I'll show this standing first and then I'll show it kneeling. You can also stay on your chair and bend forward a little bit, seated in your chair. If you're standing, invite an inhalation to support the arms in traveling up, and then an exhalation, maybe bringing the fingertips to the hip creases, like we usually do. Fold yourself forward and let the hands land on the chair, on the seat of the chair. If you are working on the floor, you started on the knees, you can take that same movement and then let the hands land on the ground. So yogi's choice. From here, from whichever position you are, either way you're just on your two hands and your 2 feet, gently put your weight into the right foot and the left hand. And then from here, you can, if you would like, this is optional, you could raise your right arm out in front of you. This will be more of a balance challenge, especially if you're on your knees and your hands on the ground. And so notice if you have room for more, and also lift your left leg. You could do one or the other, you don't have to do both. If you are doing both, then for a moment see if you can touch the elbow to the knee. So the right elbow to the left knee, and then back out. So this is how this would look if you're working with a chair. If you are working on the ground, it's the same thing, just a little lower to the earth. And you're noticing that this position really pretty much moves all of the important joints when it comes to lymphatic flow. And then at some point, come back to all fours. If you would like to rise up, if you're working with a chair, before you do the other side, you're very welcome to do so, but do it mindfully, hands to the low back, rise up the way you came down, take a round of breath or so. If you're in your tabletop on the floor, simply stay in your tabletop. You could add a few rounds of cat and cow. So flexing and extending through the back. And then when you're ready for the other side, if you came back to standing very deliberately, not rushing the other side just because you know where you're going, fold yourself forward, find your half lift, and then bring the weight into the right hand and the left foot before you even think about lifting the limbs. When you feel the weight in your left foot and your right hand, see what happens if you lift your left arm. What happens to your balance? Maybe this is where you work, right? The right leg stays down, elbow still comes to knee. Or you lift through the back leg, either from the floor or from standing. And then, as you exhale, elbow and knee touch. As you inhale, you open. Explore what feels compassionate for you. Which variation. If you're seated on the chair, and I apologize for not saying this sooner, you can do the same thing, like this. You bring your elbow to your knee. You can flex through the ankle, drawing the toes toward the shin bone. And then let that movement begin to settle, come back to center, either to your half lift or your tabletop, and very deliberately take a few cats and cows
So pressing the floor away through the hands and the feet to make a cat arch. And then inhaling, letting the belly just kind of soften. You don't have to throw your head back here at all. The head kind of stays in line with the spine. You just pulse through a couple of flexions and extensions in your spine here. And the next time you have come through your cow, instead of going all the way into your cat arch, come to neutral. Bring your hands to your low back and rise up. If you are in a tabletop, you can stay where you are. And I'll show your next move from here. So if you are in a tabletop, you can rise up for a moment and then bring one leg forward. And your movement on the floor will be a move forward and back. If you are standing, keep your chair in front of you. We did this last week too. We're recapturing really, really wonderful movements. Bring your right foot onto the chair if that serves you. If you want to keep it on the floor, that's perfectly fine. You might need a wall to stabilize yourself. And flow forward and back. So either from the floor on a knee with a foot forward, or from the floor with both feet on the ground, bending and moving towards straight in the forward knee. Really encouraging lymphatic flow upward from the feet, the ankles, through the knees, through the hip crease. Ultimately, pumped up, moved up to the heart. Little back flow preventers in your lymphatic vessels, preventing the fluid to drain back on itself. Once you set it in motion, it will flow toward your heart. The next time you return from a forward position, just come back enough, not to a straight leg anymore, but to a bent knee. Step the foot down. If you're on the floor in tabletop, switch sides. So step the knee back and then step the other foot forward, which if you started with me on the right will be the left foot, and begin the process on the other side. You can use your hand for balance. You can have one hand at the wall or on a second chair, or you could even have a walking stick in that other hand, whatever it takes to keep your balance here. If you don't want a hand on the wall or a walking stick, another great place that tends to let this flow flourish, that lets this flow unfold in an auspicious way, is the hands at the outside of your hip. And you know how in a lunge position we draw the thigh bone of the forward leg back into the hip socket and the thigh bone of the back leg forward to keep our hips parallel? That's what your hands are encouraging you to do. This allows you to keep your balance. It also protects your SI joint from any unnecessary range of movement. And when you have enjoyed as much of this as you would like for today, then the next time after you have bent your forward knee, when you come back, you don't have to come all the way to straight. You come to a bent knee, you step your foot down if you're standing. You can stay in tabletop, or you could, if you are in tabletop, come back into a rocks pose. Maybe you grab a block and bring that between your feet so that you have something to sit on. Maybe even add a blanket and find a nice comfortable seat here. Or you could be standing, or you could come to your chair and sit down. Whatever serves you
in this moment, and take a moment to tune in. Returning to your body, your breath, and your mind. Maybe taking a moment to notice if there were any shifts in your sensations or experiences in body, breath, or mind. Not expecting change, but also not missing it if it occurred. Simply, compassionately, lovingly looking inward, noticing the effects of the practice. The effects of wholesome movement, the effects of deliberate but subtle and gentle breathing, the effects of concentration and presence and mindfulness on your thoughts, your stories, your feelings. The integration of the practice into your deeper intelligence. Maybe some new neural pathways were forged by the practice. Let those integrate. And just check if watering the seeds of joy had an effect for you today. And then if you are still standing, find your seat. If you're seated but you would prefer to lie down on your back for a very brief closing meditation, find your way onto your back. Invite your body to release any unnecessary tension. And consciously let go of any sense of controlling your body. Just inviting the body to be as it is in this moment, deeply nourished. And then gently invite the breath to release any unnecessary efforting. Let go of any control that you may be exerting on your breath that you weren't even aware of. Allowing yourself simply to be breathed. Letting the breath be as it is in this moment. And then inviting the mind to settle into stillness and trusting any thoughts or feelings or stories to your deeper wisdom, safe in the knowledge that what needs coming back to will still be there later. As you allow the mind to simply be, and as you move into about a minute of silence until my voice brings you back. Very gently invite your senses to reawaken to the outer and inner world. Perhaps you tune in to the sounds around you. Perhaps you notice the fragrance or the aroma in your room. Maybe you notice if there is a taste in your mouth. Gently sense into your body from the inside out to notice if there is a need for a little bit of wiggling or stretching, or for more quietude. And indulge whatever is needed to support your thriving in this moment. And then gently tune into your breath, observing your inhalation, knowing that you're drawing air in, observing your exhalation, knowing that you are releasing air out. Appreciating the beautiful flourishing of vitality symbolized by each cycle of breath. And if you are lying on the earth and you would like to close the practice in a seat, this will be a wonderful time to begin to make that transition. But as always, you're absolutely welcome to continue on your back and to even continue to stay lying down, absorbing the practice beyond our closing. If and when you are arriving at a seat, I invite you to place your hands to your heart and to bow your head to your heart, if that suits you. And take a moment to sense inward, to find out whether there is a takeaway from class today, something that feels as though it might support your flourishing, that might water the seed of joy. And allow that takeaway to absorb into your tissues, to settle into your breath, and to create new neural pathways in your brain. Notice if that takeaway in some way connects to the intention that you had brought to your practice today. And in combination, perhaps they create a dedication of the merit of your time on the mat today. Something bigger that you would like to take from the mat into your life. If such a dedication emerges for you, I invite you to draw it into your own being with your next breath in. And I also invite you, if it feels appropriate for you, to send that dedication silently outward into the greater web of life with your next breath out. And as always, thank you all so very much for being so